Guys, they killed this episode of The Eminence in Shadow. Yo, this episode was hype as shit, man. I think they did a great job with this episode, because this episode in particular, there's some pretty important stuff that goes on between obviously Rose and Sid, just Rose in general, and the Oriana Kingdom's gonna be forever changed after this episode. Rose finding out about a particular something that we'll get into in a bit, that took me a little bit by surprise, because obviously in the light novel, it's framed in a more comedic way. But the anime made it so damn serious, man. And to be fair, when you really think about it, jokes aside, when you think about the scene and what actually happens in it, Rose's mother's betrayal, it actually is quite tragic, in all honesty. There's a lot to talk about. Even in the new style we're doing, I still got a lot to talk about today. So let's just get into it and talk about The Eminence in Shadow, Season 2, Episode 11, because we're heading towards our finale, and we'll talk about that at the end too. So when your episode literally begins with Zeta raiding the base of Mordred and the cult, you know it's going to be a pretty good episode, guys. As we see a certain device and a certain knight isn't there. Convenient. But none of that's important right now, because we're gonna really come to our boy Sid here, as we see he's ironing out his plan for Rose. You know, just use his Eminence and Shadow moves to free the hostage, aka Rose's mother. It's that simple, guys. And it's here we see that a certain maid just will not get off our boy's dick here. Good lord. As she is clinging to this man. But in case you guys wanted an update on our guard from last week, well, she's got all the answers. That Stalker, and I use Stalker particularly, has been taken out of the capital, and out of the kingdom. Because you see, he's been formally accused of stealing food. As she tells Sid, you know, no one saw him do it, but we know it was him. Look at his gut. Now, what food, you're wondering, is he accused of stealing? Well, maybe a certain, I don't know, plate of cookies, or 2 or 3 or 4, that a certain Eminence was wolfing down in the last episode. I don't know, maybe he's thrown out for that. And it's here we also see that our maid here in Epsilon don't exactly get along well. Let's just say they want a certain slime sword from an Eminence, and he just don't want to give it up. As our boy literally's got to do the shadow clone jutsu to get away. But none of that's really that important, honestly. It's just funny as hell. So I wanted to include it for you guys. Our episode from here actually gets very serious. Like, actually serious. As we see, Sid's goal is to find Queen Rena and free her from the evil clutches of Perv. But as our boy's walking around the kingdom, on the wall, of course, we see... we very quickly see that Perv might not be the only one clutching something right here. As we see the Queen and Perv are fucking, guys. They're getting down. And she's betrayed the whole kingdom for him. And not even just the kingdom. She's betrayed her husband, who she colluded with Perv to take out. And she wants to kill Rose so that they reign together. Sid's face of disgust here is so appropriate in more ways than one. What a terrible, terrible person the Queen is. This is what Shadow Garden did not want Rose to see. They knew from the beginning, and they did not want her to see her mother is an evil piece of shit that sold her out, essentially. Also gotta mention, just hearing Perv say sugar pops and sweet cakes and all that, fucking nauseating. Please stop. Please stop. As our boy even says, it's changed from an isekai fantasy to a daytime soap opera. Very accurate. And it's here with this information in mind, we have to change our approach in how we're gonna tell Rose this, as we see it's Shadow's turn to do it. Naturally, Rose is shook seeing him, thinking he's come to kill her. But instead, he just says, follow me. I have to show you the truth. And jokes aside here, truly, jokes aside, this scene is sad, man. They really made this, like, way heavier than it is in the light novel. And that's a good thing, I think. I think that's actually a good thing and adds more... It just makes it more dramatic. And I think that's really good. Because as we transition to our scene here, it's heavy. We will go through this part. As the queen saying, soon the kingdom will be ours, won't it, darling? As Perv says, and it's all thanks to you, honey. As she even admits, it was worth it to keep drugging that idiot husband of mine. I told you, she colluded with Perv. As Perv says, if she hadn't killed him, he could have done more for us. As the queen says, Rose should have been the first one we killed. She doesn't care about her at all. She's no hostage. She's in here fucking Perv talking about how they're gonna kill Rose. And naturally, this devastates her. She's heartbroken here. Everything she believed in, everything she thought she was fighting for, shattered in an instant. And she's physically sick from this. As she's violently trying to deny what's happening in front of her, but Shadow even tells her, you see it with your own eyes, don't you? And it's here with everything she knew shattered. Rose passes out here. Even for our boy Sid, this is a bit much. This is a lot. He kind of just threw her in here, not knowing that this would absolutely wreck her here. As for once, even he says, yeah, I'm sorry, I guess. This was kind of extreme. It really was. But she knows the truth now, regardless of how devastated it's made her. And it's here as Rose tries to tackle what's going on, she realizes that all these lives lost, her father who she killed, it meant nothing. It was all a game to these two. That's probably the hardest pill to swallow. As we see Rose is begging to go back to the happy days she had before, even if it's a lie. But it's here in this moment, we start hearing the piano, and things dramatically change. Now this here is one of the most important scenes in the episode, so we will go through this scene. As we see that Rose is broken here. She wants to run away with Sid, because everything she knew was a lie, and she wants to be with the one person who she believes has been there with her the entire time. But it's here. I want to stress this. This is probably the first time, this is the first time, that Sid is just upfront with her. And he really expresses to her and shows her exactly who he is as a person. Not Shadow, who Sid is, as he is the one playing the piano here. As he tells her, I like this music because it makes it easier to see the world. I've divided the world into two categories. The things that matter and the things that don't. Because I have a dream that would never come true if I didn't. As he starts explaining that, we only have so much time and so much effort. So I dedicated all my time and effort to what mattered. And cut myself loose from everything else. As naturally Rose believes that he's talking about her. As he adds, it's so easy for people to lose sight of what's really important. Because if you ask me, the world is too bright. You see too many things, and that's why you lose track of what matters. That's why I think the illumination from our moon is just right for our world. It makes everyone look more closely, and they don't lose sight of what matters. So in this world lit by the moon, what is it you see, Rose Oriana? As we see that Rose in this moment starts to get an inkling, just like Claire did in our earlier arc this season, of just who Sid really is. The light novels go far more in depth on this, where we really see that Rose is starting to suspect who Sid and Shadow really are. Obviously the same person, but they don't know. But those two in particular are starting to get an idea. As we see that the ring that he stole from Perv is sitting on the seat here, and Rose believes he left it for her. Naturally, he thought he lost it and he got it swiped from him, but hey, it's the thought that counts. And it's here with this ring in hand, Rose finally finds her resolve. And it's here, let's transition to our wedding, because that's our other important scene of our episode. As we see that every citizen in the kingdom is outraged by this wedding. They don't want it to happen. And unfortunately, they all blame Rose because of Perv instigating everything, framing her as the villain for killing the king. And as we transition into the chapel, we see that even the guests here know this wedding is a sham, used only for Perv to take the throne himself and to discard Rose. Everyone knows that. It's not a secret to everyone. But it's here before we get to that. We gotta talk about Perv having a fucking nervous breakdown. As he's saying, oh man, the king kept getting in my way this whole time. But now that I have the key to everything in my hands. And I think it's so funny how he keeps flipping the ring case open like, up here, abracadabra, up here, up here, up here. And the ring's not there. And Perv's losing his fucking mind. As Mordred even says, rejoice, Perv. You are now going to be the 12th member of the rounds after this wedding. Congratulations! And Perv shitting his pants like, I gotta find that fucking ring. And it's here as it's time for our wedding to begin. Perv's freaking out. But we see Rose is calmer than ever. As she says, I do not take this man as my husband. As she tells Perv to his face, yeah, I murdered the king. I betrayed my kingdom. I swore allegiance to a shadowy organization. I don't excuse myself from those things. I accept my mistakes, my guilt, all of it. But before it's over, I'm gonna make things right. And in front of this entire crowd, she says, you are the guilty one, Perv. You manipulated my father, the king of Oriana. You defiled the queen. That's a different topic. And you plotted to overthrow the government. As he tells her, do you have any proof of this? As she tells him flat out, no, I don't. But you know I don't need it. As he tells her, I have a hostage, remember that. You do as I say. And she says, I won't do that, no. Because whatever happens, I won't give up on my true love. I swear it on the ring that he left me. And it's here as Rose puts the ring on. Unfortunately, the plan goes into motion. But before any of that, we get a very important scene. As we suddenly see Rose's father projected to everyone in the capital here. And we will go through this scene as well. As he announces to the entire kingdom, I, Garrick, will now carry out my final act as king. Citizens of Oriana, by the time you hear this confession, I may have already passed on. I feel my mind whittling away every day, and soon I will likely have lost all my senses. Before that happens, you all must know the truth. The reason I'm losing my mind is that I'm being drugged. I've asked my wife to trade out my food, but it hasn't helped. As we know that she's been colluding with him, so she's making sure he was poisoned the entire time. I know who is behind it though, and it's Duke Perv Asshat. The Kingdom of Oriana is under the control of the enormous organization that backs him. As we even start seeing that all of Perv's backers are starting to get cold feet, realizing, oh, he's done for. He's being exposed in front of the whole kingdom here. He's done for. We're not supporting him. But as the king continues, he adds, but even if I'm personally defeated, you all have nothing to fear. Because I'm leaving this kingdom's future in the hands of the one I trust more than anyone. And that would be my daughter. Rose Oriana will be your new leader. And no matter what may happen, I want you to believe in her. She will most certainly lead this country down the right path. And as he speaks to her directly, he says, Rose, the future of this kingdom is in your hands. Rose, my daughter, I love you. And it's in this moment all of the emotions from Rose come out. Because as you guys remember, her fear, her gigantic fear on this was that her father hated her for killing him, that he resented her, that he never wanted her to succeed, and that, again, he resented her and hated her for her decision. But it's here she gets validation. He tells her directly, I love you, the kingdom's in your hands, I believe in you. As Perv's obviously trying to deny all this, but even his benefactors are singing like canaries now, saying he's a traitor. And it's in this moment, a princess becomes a queen, as we hear, as she who has been entrusted with our nation's future. I, Rose Oriana, pronounce you guilty. To say this is satisfying is an understatement. But you know what's even more satisfying? Because we see Perv's head go flying. He was murdered. Not only that, we see the queen is murdered as well. But it's not Rose, as we see Mordred is finally making his move. And it's here we see that with this device, he doesn't need the ring to activate the Black Rose. As he says, there's no need for the possessor of the key and the user of the device to be the same person. All I need is for conditions to be right and the signal will reach its destination, aka Rose putting the ring on. Because it's here our sky becomes dark and the Black Rose is formed. As Mordred says, this is the truth behind the legend. The monster that wiped out 100,000 Valgetron troops in a single night. That is the true Black Rose. As I'll let you guys in on a little secret they'll probably explain next week. The Black Rose itself is not a weapon. It's more like a portal. As we see, Mordred calls forth the grand ruler of the fourth realm, Ragnarok. And with his appearance, a good chunk of the kingdom is immediately wiped away. But it's here in this moment, in typical fashion, we see one of Ragnarok's arms get cut off, as we see EMINENCE appears. And with that, our episode ends on a cliffhanger, just like next week will. I'm 100% certain of that. Now with this video, guys, I tried to kind of blend how I normally do videos with just like a newer way. Like, I kind of want to just cut out fluff in videos, you know? And just talk about like important scenes. So I tried incorporating that in this video. A little longer than I wanted still, but, you know, I'm trying to find a happy medium between that. So let me know in the comments. You know, there's still some things I can tighten up for sure, but we're kind of getting there. But this episode, guys, I think they did really well. They added so much more emotion to this. Rose understanding that her father doesn't hate her or anything like that, and actually believes in her wholeheartedly, is a great scene, man. For Rose, and just for the series in general, it's just a great scene. I've always said Rose is one of my favorite characters, and she's going to finally come into her own moving forward, and it's going to be great. Now, next week, they really are just going to end us on a cliffhanger, huh? Not to spoil nothing, but I wouldn't be too surprised if they announced Season 3 at the end of next week's episode. I'm not saying that's going to happen 100%, but I wouldn't be too surprised if that happens. So, keep a lookout for that, guys, because they're going to end us on a big cliffhanger. A really big one, actually. But, hey, that's fun too, you know? So, let me know your thoughts in the comments on this episode, because I think it was great, actually. But until next time, guys, I hope you all have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day, and I will see you guys next time. Deuces.